Thank you so much, Nishta. Thank you, Prashant sir, for joining us. And you being from the ministry driving blue economy, it means a lot to us. And what we have tried to put together today is get a diverse set of strategists and experts to listen to us and give us guidance. I think the UDA framework, as you have also mentioned, is very well aligned to the national and the global vision. And it's very important for us to present our work to you and to all of you and get the guidance required so that we can better align ourselves to the larger thought process. So I will make a very short presentation and then my team will take over on very specifics of certain sectors that we have tried to put together. Uh, to start with, one very important aspect I would like to highlight is the unique tropical challenges and opportunities. We all know that we are in the tropical waters, and today the global community is strategically looking at the tropical waters. The Indo-Pacific, by definition, is the tropical waters of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And the tropical waters, on one end, it has rich biodiversity, a lot of undersea resources, but on the other side, when for exploitation or exploration, when we have to undertake UDA, the sonar performance degrades by almost 60%. So typically the underwater technology or the sonar technology, which developed during the Cold War period in the Greenland, Iceland, UK gap, it does not translate directly into our waters. And a lot of work needs to be done. So that is the importance of the innovation that we are looking at. And one very important aspect here is that innovation that we are talking about, it is not about solving individual problems. I mean, the UDA framework that we are driving talks about policy intervention, technology intervention, and capacity and capability building. So the policy driving also has to be through real-time data driven. Otherwise, I mean, there has been a tendency, the conventional thinking has been dependence on the Western technologies and Western know-how. But we need to keep in mind that that is not directly, unless there is significant customization that is done in the tropical waters, that same technology does not translate to real-time application in our waters. So that's something we need to keep in mind. The other aspect is that a lot of innovation and a lot of policy uh, is very, very fragmented in terms of not being able to take care of the triple bottom line. So a whole of nation approach or a very structured approach is very important. I mean, the aspect of people, economy, nature, sometimes the development actually becomes a curse for the real people or the indigenous people who deserve to be included. So inclusive development sometimes becomes a big victim of development. So we need to look at this in a very, very serious manner. And that's what I think my colleagues, our research fellows will try and convince you what we are doing and how it is aligned to taking care of it comprehensively. Maritime domain awareness, we have been looking at this. I mean, we have to also keep in mind the global south and the realities of the global south. The resources will be limited. And but on the other side, we see significant fragmentation among the various, I mean, the governance structure. So how, and also the maritime domain awareness is a term largely used by the security establishment, but somehow this the defense budget or the security budget cannot do the heavy lifting that is required for the capacity building, and particularly as I tried to bring in the context of the tropical waters. So the indigenous technology development or indigenous R&D or the site-specific R&D that is required for the tropical waters will require significant resources. But I think the UDA structure brings in that aspect very clearly. So just quickly, I think this audience knows about the various dimensions of the UDA that we talk about. I mean, I always start my presentation by saying 75% of the earth is water, and in that 90% is below the surface. So you cannot ignore UDA at any cost. So just giving a glimpse, not getting into too much of details, there is so much of resources or so much of aspect, the opportunities that lie below the surface, or even the concerns of natural disaster also originates largely from the underwater space. So we need to be very mindful, and with the better early warning system, we can definitely take care. Even sustainability has to be monitored and managed. Even today, we need to use a lot of technology for prediction. And when we talk about policy, we have to have a significant scale of spatial and temporal horizon. I mean, I would say at least the entire uh, tropical region, right from the Himalayas to the down, right up to the southern Indian Ocean. That has to be the spatial scale, and temporally at least 50 years. So again, here the data analytics will become very, very important, the prediction of any action that we take. So and how do we use smart technology? I mean, we cannot put so much sensors. So modeling and simulation becomes a very important aspect. So my colleagues will talk about each of those things. So this is the framework that we have come up with. And when we say framework, it looks at a structured, inclusive, and a comprehensive. Comprehensive means there is nothing that is left out from this framework. I mean, this will remain work in progress for a long time, but we are trying to make sure that we are able to cover as much. And if you look at the horizontal construct, all the four stakeholders broadly categorized into security, blue economy, sustainability and climate change, and also science and technology, or more appropriately now, the digital transformation. But the core will remain the acoustic capacity and capability building. And also, when you look at the vertical construct, we know very little. So a lot of sensing, analysis, and regulation. And when we talk about sensing, then we have an issue of the limited sonar performance. So how do we tackle that? So there's huge, I mean, each of these smaller cubes can become a massive opportunity for us to contribute, and the whole startup ecosystem can really get involved, and very specific definition. But at the same time, you develop one capability, core capability, and if you know which are the stakeholders who are relevant to you, your viability becomes far better. So, I mean, we don't have too much time, but this is the framework that we have come up with. We've also got a copyright on this framework. This is the marine spatial planning. It should be talked about. So, I mean, this heat map or the spatio-temporal map gives us a better sense, right, from a policymaker's perspective to an individual industry or a startup, how they can contribute and how they can position themselves. I mean, startups can be distributed geographically also, sectorally also, and through various applications. So once you develop a certain capabilities, and even for the policymaker, I mean, we are very grateful that MOES is represented. I mean, they can also kind of manage the distribution of resources in a manner that it covers the entire geography very well, and how various sectors can be managed. And we are doing this across. So this is, so the entire startup ecosystem can be driven through this MSP tool. I mean, what it represents is all this various applications, right, from fisheries, aquaculture, connectivity, and various other, I mean, underwater noise, even deployment of submarines or deployment of military assets. Everything can be driven through this. I mean, I can also use the word gateway. And a lot of information can be drawn from this tool that we are building. And from there, and also when a startup generates certain things, they can also give back to the system. And this has to be a nationally driven system where the policymaker gets very real-time inputs on what's happening all over. And so in terms of the startup ecosystem, to see, to understand, and to share, I mean, to see the sensor and the platform. So multiple startups can come in this space. Right now, we are heavily dependent on imports, but I think at some stage we should definitely focus on this. But the second part to understand, which is the data analytics, I think that has to be completely indigenously controlled. I'm using the word very responsibly, and also managed. And I think there is no dearth of talent, and huge. And here we can even make certain core areas. I mean, signal processing, robotics, they can be made as core areas serving across multiple applications. And the third is to share. Again, here it has to be customized to the specific user. Right from a policymaker, the policymaker will have a very different strategic requirement, but on the ground there'll be a tactical requirement which has to be customized, and that has to be. And I think there's significant talent existing in our country. Again, in terms of manpower, I mean, high-end data analysts to domain knowledge specialists, and so field deployment specialists, we can definitely skill our coastal communities or the indigenous communities or riverine communities to be part of this digital transformation by contributing to the field deployment. And a lot of traditional knowledge and traditional practices can be weaved in this part and taken forward. So I think I'll stop here. Back to you, Nishtha.